If you look at your life right now and it feels like a museum of half-finished dreams, a guitar sitting in the corner with dust on the strings, a half-coded website you swore you'd finish, a notebook full of business ideas, a set of baking tools you used for 2 weeks straight, and then a sudden urge to learn jujitsu like your life depends on it, you probably carry a very specific kind of shame that most people don't understand. You feel like you're scattered. You feel like you can't commit. You feel like you're failing at adulthood because you can't just pick one thing and stay with it. Society has a label for you, and it's not a kind one. They'll call you chaotic, inconsistent, unfocused, or worse, a dilettante. And if you've ever heard the phrase jack of all trades, master of none, you might have used it like a weapon against yourself, thinking your curiosity is the reason you're behind in life. But what most people forget is the rest of the quote, the part that changes everything. A jack of all trades is a master of none, but often better than a master of one. Psychology suggests that what you're experiencing isn't a defect, it's a signal. It's a symptom of a highly adaptive nervous system. You're not failing to specialize. You may be unconsciously building a rare cognitive architecture that the modern world is about to reward more than ever, something we can call the M-shaped mind. Because while everyone keeps telling you to focus, your brain is trying to prepare you for a future where extreme specialization becomes a liability instead of an advantage. To understand why your mind works like this, we have to talk about the lie you were sold. For the last century, the world operated like a simple game. It rewarded people who dug one hole a mile deep. It was an I-shaped world, where your identity was supposed to be one thing: doctor, engineer, accountant, mechanic, teacher. And if you stayed in that lane long enough, you got promoted, respected, and rewarded. It was a kind environment, meaning the rules stayed mostly stable. Like golf. If you practiced the same swing for 10,000 hours, you got better, and the world paid you for that mastery. But you don't live in a kind environment anymore. Your brain knows it, even if you don't consciously admit it. You live in a wicked environment, one where the rules change constantly, where technology rewrites industries overnight, where careers that looked safe 5 years ago suddenly become fragile, and where the skills that mattered yesterday might not matter tomorrow. In a wicked environment, the specialists can become dangerously brittle. If the industry shifts, they become obsolete. If automation takes over, they get replaced. If the market collapses, their one deep skill becomes a trap instead of a gift. And because your brain senses this instability, you naturally drift. One year you're obsessed with electrical wiring and HVAC systems. The next you're deep into yoga, heavy lifting, and DJing. Then suddenly you're learning design, marketing, coding, investing, psychology, and storytelling. To an outsider, this looks like chaos. They'll say you can't commit. They'll say you don't have discipline. But what you're actually doing is collecting data points from different domains, building a mental library that most people will never have. And this is where psychology reveals the hidden advantage behind your scattered life: the power of far transfer. Most specialists use what psychologists call near transfer. They solve problems they've seen before using the same tools they've always used. It works well in stable environments, but in unstable environments, near transfer becomes limited because the problems keep changing. Far transfer is different. Far transfer is when you take a concept from one completely unrelated field and apply it to another. It's when your brain connects dots that were never meant to be connected. It's when you take lessons from music and use them in business. Take lessons from martial arts and apply them to discipline. Take lessons from cooking and apply them to systems. Take lessons from psychology and apply them to leadership. This is not distraction. This is innovation. Think about the person who became a web developer but used to be a farmer and a beekeeper. On paper, those things have nothing to do with coding. But that experience with nature, cycles, and ecosystems gives them a mental model that a pure specialist coder may never develop. They don't just build websites, they cultivate systems. They understand growth. They understand feedback loops. They understand patience. That's far transfer. That's creative intelligence. And the reason you feel like an imposter is because you've been measuring your worth using the wrong ruler. You've been judging yourself by depth alone, when your true value is synthesis. You're not meant to be the deepest in one narrow lane. You're meant to be the bridge between lanes. You're meant to combine skills in ways that create something new. But here's the painful part, and this is why so many multi-interest people feel burned out and behind in life. The world rewards visible linear progress. You look around and see people your age becoming senior managers, lead engineers, directors, specialists with impressive titles, and you feel like you're still at the starting line because you keep switching tracks. And you start panicking. You start thinking, I wasted time. You start thinking, I ruined my future. But you didn't ruin your future. You're misunderstanding the geometry of your potential. Most people are taught to become T-shaped, general knowledge with one specialty. But you are not T-shaped, you are M-shaped. An M-shaped person has multiple pillars of depth connected by a bridge of curiosity. It's not shallow, it's not random. It's multiple deep skills built across time, connected by a mind that learns fast and adapts. But here's the trap that destroys M-shaped people. You cannot build all the pillars at the same time. If you try to learn data science, write a novel, start a business, master fitness, and build a YouTube channel all in the same month, you will collapse. You will feel like you're drowning. You will feel like you're failing at everything. And that's because the M-shaped life requires a strategy most people never learn. Serial mastery. You have to view your life in seasons. Not every interest is meant to be mastered immediately. Some interests are meant to be explored, then paused, then returned to later with more strength. You might spend your 20s obsessing over music, art, and creativity. Then in your 30s, you pivot to programming or business to build stability. You didn't betray your creativity. You completed a season of construction. You built one pillar. Then later, you return to the other pillar with more resources, more confidence, and more maturity. The people who succeed with the M-shaped mind don't try to merge everything instantly. They let it exist sequentially until the connections become obvious. I once heard a story of a man in his 50s who finally found peace with this. He realized he couldn't choose art over programming because both were part of who he was. So he made programming the pillar that paid the bills, while music, philosophy, and game design became the other pillars that fed his soul. He even denied high-demand promotions because he didn't want to trade his life energy for a title. He protected his mind. He kept his work week lighter. He created space for his other pillars to grow on nights and weekends. And over time, those pillars merged into something unique, his own personal creative projects that no single specialist could have built. That is the M-shaped future in action. Now here is the final psychological trait that makes you more powerful than you realize, and it comes from evolutionary biology. It's called redundancy. In nature, redundancy is not waste, it's strength. Some animals survive because they have backups. Some systems last because they have multiple pathways. If one fails, another takes over. That's why diversity in nature creates resilience, and your chaotic interests are your redundancy. If you are only one thing, you are fragile. If you are only a specialist in one narrow skill and the world changes, you panic. But if you are a person with multiple competencies, someone who can build, write, teach, sell, create, repair, design, communicate, learn fast, and adapt, you become unbreakable. You become the kind of person the future cannot easily erase. You haven't been wasting your time dabbling. You've been building strategic adaptability. You've been creating a safety net of skills that ensures no matter what happens to the economy, technology, or job market, you have a pivot ready. And that is not failure. That is survival intelligence. So stop apologizing for your graveyard of hobbies. Those weren't dead ends. They were semesters in the university of your own making. Each interest taught you something, even if you didn't master it. Each project built a mental model, a perspective, a tool. And one day, when the world demands creativity, connection, and adaptability, you'll realize those unfinished interests were actually training. You were never meant to be one thing. You were meant to be the bridge between worlds that other people can't even see. So if this message hit you in a personal way, if you're tired of feeling guilty for being curious, and you're ready to embrace your M-shaped future with pride, then you're exactly the kind of mind this channel is built for. This is the known sense, where we break down psychology, identity, and human behavior in a way that makes you understand yourself on a deeper level. If you want more videos like this that turn confusion into clarity, make sure you like this video, subscribe to the known sense, and share it with someone who feels lost because they have too many interests. Because the truth is, they're not lost, they're evolving.